I really love the Marvel Netflix series. Like everyone who saw it, I thought Daredevil was an actual masterpiece, and I had similarly strong feelings about Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Iron Fist was okay, I guess. Really, it was just disappointing because Iron Fist is actually my favorite character in Marvel Comics, and the show's portrayal of him wasn't entirely accurate. But the show wasn't totally terrible or anything like that. Speaking of the comics, there are plenty of character traits and relationships and even heroes that haven't been fully established yet. But they have been set up if you look out for the hints. This is why today we're looking at predictions for the future events in Marvel's Netflix universe. Spoiler warnings for Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the Defenders. First, Misty Knight. We've already seen promotions of Luke Cage Season 2, including her wearing a bionic arm, but there are more details to be established about her character. For example, you may be surprised to learn this if you only watch the Netflix shows, but her romantic relationship with Danny Rand is actually a staple in the comics. The first bit of setup for this is at the start of The Defenders, when she explains in episode 1 that she's been promoted, so her jurisdiction now falls beyond just Harlem. This opens the door for her to appear in other Marvel series, including Iron Fist. Despite the two never really speaking to each other for the duration of the Defenders or Iron Fist series, this possible future relationship is set up at the same moment that her receiving a prosthetic arm is set up. During the last episode of The Defenders, Misty Knight is injured by Bakuda, who cuts off her arm. Later we see her set up in a hospital room, and it's revealed that the hospital is owned by Danny Rand himself. This implies that he's overseeing her recovery himself. Now at the time, Danny's still dating Colleen Wing, but they're clearly attempting to establish some connection between the two characters now, and it's possible that their relationship is an end goal Marvel has in mind. Speaking of relationships, there's of course the iconic Luke Cage and Jessica Jones relationship. Now these two have already had routine coffee dates in the past, but there was a pretty rough fallout between the two after Luke discovers Jessica's hand in his wife's death. He was understandably upset, but I think this discord was wrapped up in Luke Cage when he discovers that his wife had been lying to him and all around wasn't who he thought she was. Of course there is still the complication that he's now dating Claire Temple, but the moments of conversation between Luke and Jessica during The Defenders show us that things aren't as tense as they were left off. Luke clearly still cares about Jessica as he checked in on her after Matt's death, and Jessica still shows a clear interest in Luke, as she suggests that they could get coffee together soon. And let's face it, it's not even a code anymore. It's just the language of Luke and his lovers at this point. This scene between Luke and Jessica at the bar at the end of the series shows us that the romance between these two hasn't been settled yet. I think these two ending up together is the most likely prediction on this list. The third prediction I want to make is about the future of Danny Rand's character. Now we see at the end of Defenders that Danny has decided to protect New York and Matt's name, inspired by his sacrifice. This could mean we see Iron Fist acting as Daredevil at some point, and once Matt makes his inevitable return, Danny will be used to wearing a costume and end up developing one of his own. We'll finally get Iron Fist wearing that classic leotard. I also suspect that during his time as Daredevil, Iron Fist will probably meet Spider-Man, introducing the young hero to the Netflix universe, and allowing for potential team-ups in the future. That particular prediction is less likely, but one that I'm deeply hopeful for. Iron Fist is my favorite Marvel hero, so all I can hope for is more of him being done a little better each time. And finally, the biggest event I'm able to predict. This one will be my prediction for the entirety of Daredevil Season 3. At the end of Defenders, Matt orders the rest of the group to leave him behind to fight Elektra and convince her to leave with him. Unknown to the rest of the group, he had decided to die with her in that cave. They fight and he tries to talk to her. Finally, he gets through to her and they embrace and kiss in their final moments as a skyscraper comes crashing down on them. Daredevil is dead, but inexplicably, we see him wake up. The League of Assassins is DC, so the only organization with the power to bring Daredevil back to life must be the Hand. But who would do this, and why? I suggest Madame Gao. Of all the influential members of the Hand, Gao has been the closest to Daredevil, and has seemingly had her operations in New York the longest. She also seems to regard Daredevil the highest, perhaps prompting her to attempt to turn him into a weapon for the Hand. Whether or not Elektra was also revived remains to be seen, so there could be a plot about Matt trying to revive Elektra for the second time, but I think the majority of the season will resemble an arc in Daredevil's own comic line, during which he became the Shogun of the Hand and used the Hand to take over Hell's Kitchen, enacting a war on crime, corrupt police officers, and Norman Osborn's Hammer Industries. That last group probably won't make it to the show's adaptation, but you get the idea. Daredevil Season 2 was about Daredevil's frustration with the system, and his lamentation at the corruption and failures of the system which allowed criminals to continue operating, even allowing big names like Wilson Fisk to take control of an entire prison, while lower criminals like Turk Barrett just get spat back out onto the street every week, in a seemingly unending cycle. The Punisher's solution to this problem is just to kill the bad guys, but Matt decided to stick with the old, if they come back up, beat them back down strategy. I think we'll see that this doesn't work. Perhaps Season 3 will begin with Matt coming back and resuming his position as Daredevil. Meanwhile, we'll hear about Fisk getting out of prison, and we'll see a great scene from Brian Bendis' Daredevil run, where Matt fights Fisk in front of his men, beating him to a bloody pulp, and then threatening to do the same to them if they don't either change their ways or leave Hell's Kitchen. In the comics, Kingpin actually tried tried to join the Hand as a formal member, but during his inauguration, Daredevil appeared and took his place, and the Hand accepted him as Shogun with open arms, as he was someone they wanted even more. We could combine these two plot threads for Daredevil Season 3, so that Matt drives Fisk to the Hand by destabilizing his operations and public image, forcing him to turn to the Hand, which Matt then feels the need to subvert by taking his place. At this point, he may realize that the Hand is an army that he can use in his war against crime, and the rest of the season could basically be Shadowland, which was about Matt becoming possessed by a demon known as the Beast, and fighting off heroes and other leaders of the Hand who try to oppose him. We could have the Defender Squad plus Punisher, Elektra, and potentially even Spider-Man all try to invade Shadowland to take down Matt, just like a group of heroes did in the actual comic book, leading to another great scene like the one with Elektra from the Defender show where Matt basically 1v6s them all, or this could be the climax of the show where they actually overpower him, unlike how it went in the comic. The way this plays out in the Shadowland comic is Foggy Nelson scales the building to get to Matt, and is led inside by White Tiger, and tries to reach Matt with words. Iron Fist uses this opportunity to use his chi to allow Elektra to enter Matt's mind and basically evict the Beast. I didn't expect things to exactly play out this way in the Netflix adaptation, for a number of reasons, but I do think something along those lines may happen, as the romance between Matt and Elektra has been an integral part of both characters since Daredevil Season 2. So what do you think of my predictions? I feel pretty confident about a couple of them, given that they're based entirely on the events of the comics. Do you think there are clues that I missed? Let us know in the comment section below, and while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe.